Hey there nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniature wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and we're proud to present another episode of Necromunda Hired Guns, your ultimate guide to the use of hanger-ons, brutes, and hired guns in your campaigns of Necromunda. In this series, we'll dive deep into the fascinating world of these allies and assets, and whether you're a seasoned gang leader or just step into the dark corners of Hive Primus the very first time, we'll show you how to master these fighters in order to dominate in your next campaign. Now, today's episode, we're talking about two specific types of fighters. We're talking about the Outland Beastmaster, which is a brute that can be recruited to bring exotic alien and Xenos life forms into your battlefields to fight against your enemies, as well as a Whisper Merchant, which is a dark alley, back alley kind of black market spy who trades in secrets and information to help your gangs out. And because this video will be a little bit more of a deeper dive, I will put timestamps in the description box down below so that way you can click and navigate to the part of the video that interests you the most. So that being said, let's kick off our video by talking about the Whisper Merchant. Rumors aplenty can be found in the Hall of Lies in Hive Primus, though for the richest source information, a gang should enlist its own Whisper Merchant. Professional rumormongers, these shadowy individuals deal in all kinds of truths, gathering juicy information on rivals, but also more esoteric pieces of intel that might benefit the gang. So let's talk about the Whisper Merchant real quick, which is a unique kind of hanger-on that you can use for your gangs. For most gangs, they usually cost about 60 credits a piece, but for House Delac gangs, they actually get a steep discount on these hanger-ons and only cost 30 credits for these characters. Now, first of all, let's talk about the characteristics real quick. They got a 5-inch wound allowance, a 5+ weapon skill, 4+ ballistic skill. They got 3 strength, 3 toughness, 1 wound, 4 initiative, 1 attack. They have 9 leadership, 7 cool, 8 willpower, as well as 5 intelligence. Now, on the surface, their characteristics are actually not that great. They're pretty much on par with juvie level fighters, but that's not the reason why you're taking these guys, because they're not really used for combat. However, they do have a very useful 5+ intelligence, which is quite nice. Now, for their skills, they do have the skill Lie Low, which is while prone, enemy fighters can't target with shooting attacks unless you're within the short range. As weird as it may sound, I kind of slipped on this skill myself. Lie Low is actually one of the most slept on skills available from the cunning tree for a lot of gangs in Necromunda as well. And the reason why is because you can use this in combination with the take cover basic action to prevent from being shot at. So for example, if you're going against a very shoot heavy gang like the Van Sar, for example, you can just kind of move up, take cover, and not be targeted all the way until you get within range to strike at your opponents. I'm actually thinking about making a video about the Lie Low skill specifically and how you could actually use that to your benefit. Now, when it comes to this equipment, of course, they only have one thing, which is, of course, a stub gun, which is, not that great. But like I said before, you're not really taking the Whisper Merchant for its combat characteristics. The reason why you're taking the Whisper Merchant is because of its special rules, specifically the special rule, Useful Lies. And what this rule basically states is that you can change a die to a 6 once before and after each battle in certain situations. So you got 6 different times you can actually use this ability. You could trade out one of your die rolls for a 6, and for example, if you're doing the pre-battle sequence, you could use it to determine a scenario or to determine the crew size for your gang in a upcoming scenario. So for example, if you want to play a very specific scenario and you realize that your die roll can actually help you do that for you to be even better in that fight, have a better chance of victory, that's a great way to actually use that. Or more importantly, get the max number of fighters you can in a scenario so that way you can dominate on the tabletop as well. However, in my opinion though, the best way to use Useful Lies special rule is in the post-battle action sequence. And the reason why, because you could use it for visiting the trading post as well as the black market, so you could use it for rarities and getting information, getting that kind of thing to help you out, get the equipment that you want to as well. You could also, more importantly, use it for gaining rewards. So things like getting experience points, credits, etc. These are really great ways for you to actually change up things so that way you can actually benefit yourself and for your gang to get a lot of materials, resources, things that you might need in order to dominate in your campaign as well. Now, you can use this ability up to 6 times in total, but once you use up all 6 times, the Whisper Merchant leaves your service. So if you want to re-up again, you have to purchase this guy once again. So for example, if you are a normal gang that's not House Delac, it's going to cost you additional 60 credits to rehire another Whisper Merchant, but if you're a Delac gang, it's only 30 credits as well. Now, once again, when it comes to checking on hanger-ons, brutes, and hired guns, it's always down to player choice, just basically how you like to play and such. A good Whisper Merchant, however, can sway the outcome of a lot of campaigns sometimes because of the impact on things like experience points gains, and same thing with reputation as well. So I'd say this character is actually worth the 60 credits that you actually purchase this guy for, especially if you're a Delac gang. If you're a Delac gang, you should automatically get one of these right off the bat, because not only does this character actually do a lot of good for your game, but they only cost 30 credits on top of that as well. Plus, for those of you guys who want to get the Forge Roll miniature, the miniature looks quite good as well. And in fact, I can imagine someone actually using this character to actually be a leader of an outcast gang. But those are my overall thoughts on the Whisper Merchant. So now that we're going to talk about the Whisper Merchant, let's talk about the Outland Beastmaster. Fighters on Necromunda quickly learn to use anything and everything they can to get the edge over their foes. Outland Beastmasters take this ethos to include the countless critters and other creepy, crawling, and biting horrors that infest the lower regions of the Hive cities or live beneath the Wasteland settlements. Using ancient techniques handed down through the centuries, they employ lures, animal calls, and shock staves to capture and then train everything from the humble Hive rat to the massive rock-skinned Millisaur. For a price, a Beastmaster will lend their talents and their critters to a gang, often taking their foes by surprise as murderous vermin strike at them from the shadows. The Beastmasters themselves are also no small threat, often having learned tricks from their pets by long association. Whether it's in the bad zones of the Underhive or out in the deep wastes, a gang will be thankful for the skills a Beastmaster can bring to the fight, or should things go especially badly, the walking meals under their control. So we're going to talk about specifically the Outland Beastmaster today. This character costs 100 credits and can actually be recruited by almost every single game that's out there in Necromunda as well. Now let's talk about their characteristics real quick. They have a 6-inch wound allowance as well as 4+ weapon skill and ballista skill. They have 3 strength and toughness, 2 wounds, 3 initiative, 1 attack, 7 leadership, 6 cool, 7 willpower, as well as 8 intelligence. Now when it comes to the characteristics, they're actually quite good. They have 2 wounds, which is actually quite nice. They have average weapon skill and ballista skill as well. The only downside, they only have 1 attack, but they do have 6 up for cool as well as 7 for willpower, which is quite good. Not to mention they got that really good 6-inch wound allowance as well. Now when it comes to their equipment, of course, they're armed with a sawn-off shotgun with both solid and scatter ammo. The scatter ammo for a sawn-off shotgun is quite good because the short range is 4 inches while the maximum range is 8 inches, but if you're hitting in the short range, you have to get 2+ on your ballistic skill. So as long as you don't roll a 1, you can actually land a shot with this sawn-off shotgun. It also strikes at strength 3 with 1 damage, but you also got scatter shot, which means you potentially could put 6 wounds on a person, which is actually quite good. The only problem, of course, you got to be within really close range in order to use it effectively. And then of course we have solid ammo as well, which also has a 4-inch short range as well as an 8-inch long range. However, though, if you fire at long range, you do suffer -2 to your ballistic skill, so you're striking at ballistic skill 6, which is not that great. But when you do fire it though, it does cause strength 4 to damage and knockback. Now the main reason why you might want to take the shotgun as a weapon is because no matter what ammo you're using, whether it's solid shot or scatter shot, they have the plentiful trait added to it, which means you automatically get to reload it every single time, which is actually quite nice. So it's a great way to just be able to spam those shots as much as you want to. Now you do have a shock stave as a melee weapon, which is a 2-inch versatile attack, and it also strikes at strength 4 with 1 damage, and also has a shock characteristic as well. So if you do manage to roll a 6 on that weapons trait, you're automatically going to wound, which means you also get 2 attacks on the charge at 2-inch versatile attack. It's actually quite nice. And to make this fighter even better, they also automatically come with mesh armor, which gives them a 5-up armor save as well. Now when it comes to the skills of the Outland Beastmaster, it largely depends on which specific type of creature you're going to have your Beastmaster be associated with, and you can only choose one type to be with. You can either take the Giant Wasteland Rat, the Millisaur, or the Ripperjack. Now if you take the Giant Wasteland Rat, you get the dodge skill, which gives you a 6 of ward save, which is always useful. You can take the Millisaur, which gives you the infiltrate skill, which is perhaps one of the best skills on this list. And then lastly, Corey, you can take Catfall, which is a agility skill, which means that if you ever manage to fall off of anything, you only take half the distance measured in order to determine damage. And if you do manage to land on your feet, and it's like and if you have passive initiative, you don't get pinned so long as your injury isn't seriously injured or out of action as well. The only downfall with the Catfall skill is that if you're playing a Zone Mortalis battlefield, it's pretty much useless. That's the only problem with that. Now we do have some special rules attached to this character. One is called One with the Beast, which means you must choose one type of pet that your Beastmaster is responsible for. Those are either Wasteland Giant Rats, Millisaurs, or Ripperjacks. Don't worry, we're going to talk about those specific type of critters in this video as well. We'll talk about the pros and cons of each of those guys. And you also have the Beast Trainer special rule, which means that your pets can now remain within 6 inches of your fighter rather than the typical 3. So these guys can kind of roam off on their own just a little bit, which is quite nice. Now in my opinion, this is actually a really great way to bring extra fighters in the battlefield, because not only do you get the Beastmaster, but you also get whatever critters are taking with them as well. And as weird as it may sound, the Outland Beastmaster might make a potentially good outcast leader as well. So that way you could actually have, technically speaking, 3 Beastmasters in an outcast gang. You can have your normal Beastmaster be your leader with 2 more brutes hired on your gang later on, which is actually quite cool. Not to mention the Forge World miniatures actually look really good as well, not just the Beastmasters themselves, but also their critters. So that might be something you want to do. And of course, if you're always looking for a way to save money, which I highly recommend to do, you can either 3D print, proxy, kit bash, or convert your own, which of course would be absolutely fantastic. So I think the Outland Beastmaster is really cool for some of the things that they can do. But the Beastmaster, even though they themselves are quite good, more importantly, their critters that they're bringing with them are much better and actually do a lot for your gang. So we're going to talk about those creatures next, and the very first one we're going to talk about is the Wasteland Giant Rat. There is a saying on Necromunda that if you throw a spanner in a hive, it's more likely to hit a rat than the floor, and it is not entirely untrue. Incredibly resilient and in numbers that makes the teeming masses of humanity seem small, Wasteland giant rats will probably be around long after mankind is gone. So let's go and talk about these little horrible, creepy little critters, and they cost about 30 credits a piece, and you can have a maximum of 3 of these guys in your gang with your Beastmaster as well. Now let's go over the characteristics real quick. They got a 5-inch wound allowance, 4+ weapon skill, 5+ ballistic skill, 3 strength and toughness, 1 wound, 3 initiative, 1 attack. They have 8 leadership, 7 cool, 8 willpower, as well as 7 intelligence. Now when it comes to their characteristics, they're actually not all that great. They're pretty much on par with most juvie level fighters, but you know, they're also cheaper than some juvie level fighters as well, which could also be quite nice. And they also do a lot of good things for your gangs that juvies could sometimes cause problems about. Now you do have the dodge skill with your giant rats, which means you also get a 6+ ward save, which is the same skill that your Beastmaster have, which is quite nice. And they just have their fangs that they can use to attack with, which means they're attacking at strength 3 with 1 damage. It's alright, but you know, it's actually, you know, it's not much, but it's enough. And the real reason why I want to take these guys, however, though, is for their special rules, because on the surface, Wasteland giant rats may not be all that great. However, though, their expendable rule makes them quite valuable, because if these guys get taken out of action, they do not trigger any nerve tests whatsoever if fighters within 3 inches of them. Whereas juvies would cause panic and make people take nerves tests when they get hit, giant Wasteland rats, it doesn't do anything else at all. So they kind of fulfill the same role as juvies do, so you can use these guys to kind of act as a screen to protect your more valuable fighters from harm. And the second reason why these things are so great is because the special rule, never more than 1 meter from a rat. If this fighter is removed or killed from the roster because they rolled up dead on the serious injury table, it can be replaced for free after the battle. Once again, be replaced for free. And that's the reason why you might want to take a look at the Wasteland giant rat, because while Ripperjacks and Millisaurs are cool, if they get killed, you have to purchase new ones. A Wasteland giant rat gets killed, you automatically get another replacement for absolutely free, which is actually quite nice. So in order to fully kit out a Beastmaster with all 3 Wasteland giant rats, you're talking about a grand total investment of 190 credits in your gang, and the fact that your giant rats keep on coming back no matter what ends up happening to them, that's just icing on the cake, and it's absolutely fantastic for you. Plus, not to mention, the miniatures from Forge World also look quite good as well. So now that we're done talking about the giant Wasteland rat, let's go ahead and talk about the Ripperjack next. So, numerous Helmwars have tried to purge Necromunda for the abominable alien Ripperjack, though they are now probably as much a part of the world as gangs and corpse starch. Flying fanged horrors, they are the reason smart gangers scan the ceiling before entering an abandoned dome. So let's talk about the Ripperjack, which is a flying monstrosity, face-hugging type creature for your gangs. These guys cost 70 credits a piece, and you can have a maximum of 3 of these guys in your gang with your Beastmaster. Now let's talk about their characteristics real quick. So they got a 7-inch wound allowance, which is really fast. They also got 4+ weapon skill, 6+ ballistic skill. They have 3 strength and toughness, 2 wounds, 3 initiative, 2 attacks, 8 leadership, 7 cool, 8 willpower, as well as 8 intelligence. Now the characteristics are actually quite good. The 7-inch wound allowance is quite deadly. They can move up to 14 inches if you decide to double move them as well. And plus they have 2 wounds and 2 attacks, which means they charge into close combat. They got 3 attacks base, which is also quite nice as well. Now when it comes to their equipment, I do apologize for this one. They kind of messed up the rules on this one from the Vox Necromunda website that I downloaded this from. So I do apologize for that. Ignore some of the rules on here because they kind of did it wrong. But they do have teeth, which means they strike at strength 3 with 2 damage, and you also get 3 attacks if you manage to charge in. They don't have any armor though. Okay, unfortunately this little screenshot says they do, but they don't really have armor as per the official rulebook. Same thing with skills, they don't have any skills either, so that's the downside about these things. Now, when it comes to their special rule, they do have flight, which means they can move freely amongst terrain. So if you're fighting in like Sector Mechanicus, for example, there's a lot of 3-dimensional space. These things can actually just fly freely across the battlefield, which is actually quite nice as well. They also have the Solitary Hunter special rule, which means they can't benefit from any kind of grants or give any or assists or benefit from any assists, because Ripperjacks are just these fearsome, like ruling dervish things, so people tend to stay away from them. So that part is kind of sad. However, though, they do have a really cool rule called Enveloping Attack, which is good for pinning enemy fighters that you don't want to deal with, because what ends up happening is that your enemies suffer -2 on their retreat rolls, and they also suffer -1 hit for reaction attacks as well. So let's say you have a really brutal enemy brute, or maybe a champion that you want to deal with. You can have your Ripperjack swoop in, get them Enveloping Attack, and kind of handicap them so that way your other fighters can finish them off. Now the Ripperjack is the most expensive of the critters you can take, which costs 70 credits a piece. So if you really want to fully kit it out Beastmaster with all 3 of your Ripperjacks, you're talking about a grand total investment of 310 credits for your gang. It is Quite expensive for that brute. However, though, there's a lot of good things you get for this, because the Ripperjack by far is the quickest moving of all the creatures, and he could also cause a lot of problems by, you know, basically enveloping your enemies with these guys and preventing your enemies from actually making really successful reaction attacks, which would be quite useful. Not to mention, their ability to move through vertical space very quickly is also quite nice. Not to mention, I keep on saying this, but the miniature looks really cool as well, so if you want to get the official Forge Rule miniatures, more power to you, because the rules are quite good and the miniature is ace looking as well. Probably brought to Necromunda long ago to help with mining or underground vermin, Millisaurs have spread across much of the planet. Rock-skinned worms, they burrow into everything and are almost impossible to shift once they lay claim to an area. So the Millisaur, you can have 3 of these guys in your gang and they cost 60 credits apiece. Let's talk about their movement characteristics. They got 6-inch movement characteristic as well as 4+ weapon skill, 5+ ballistic skill. They have 3 strength and 3 toughness, 2 wounds, 4 initiative, 2 attacks, 8 leadership, 7 cool, 7 willpower, as well as 8 intelligence. Now their characteristics are actually quite good with a 6-inch wound allowance. They are still quite fast. They also got 2 wounds base, and they also got 3 attacks. When they charge in close combat, they get 3 attacks base, and they're pretty good for close combat. The thing about these guys, though, which actually kind of makes them so great, though, are their cool as well as their willpower characteristics. They're both 7. So, for example, you're fighting against someone like Corpse Grinder Cults, for example, your Millisaurs will about a 50-50 chance of passing those tests in order to attack those guys. So, Millisaurs are actually quite good. Now, when it comes to their equipment, they do have armored hides, giving them a 5-up armor save, which is also quite good for these characters, especially when you consider they have 2 wounds apiece, and their fanged maws have toxin traits attached to them as well. So you get 3 attacks in the charge with toxin trait. You can take out really heavy-duty fighters with high toughness scores or fighters that have multiple wounds, which makes them really, really good. At the same time, for their skills, they also have the infiltrate skill through their ambush predator special rule. So because they also have infiltrate as well. The nice thing about Millisaurs is that Millisaurs are basically, in my humble opinion anyways, the best overall all-around creature that you can take for your gang. They can hit hard like a ton of bricks. They can also write resilient as well. They got great rules on the equipment for them to use. The only downside about these guys, if there is one, is that they cost 60 credits a piece, whereas giant rats cost 30, and you can also resupply those guys indefinitely as well. So, not to mention, they also got that burrowing special rule, which makes them quite good, which means they can go through impassable terrain no problem, because they can just burrow underneath it and pop up the other side. So if you want to get a fully kitted out Beastmaster with all 3 Millisaurs, you're talking about a grand total investment of 280 credits, which is actually not that bad. And like I said before, I think they're the most useful of all the critters that you can take with your gang when it comes to your Beastmaster as well. They have a good balance of pretty much everything, and not to mention the miniatures also look quite creepy and crawly and awesome as well. So if you're looking for a good kind of happy medium, you can't go wrong with Millisaurs. So in conclusion, the Beastmaster, as well as their critters, along with the Whisper miniature, they have some really cool looking miniatures, and they got some really good rules to go with either of them as well. And as always, it's always a tactical and strategic choice when it comes to actually choosing your hanger-ons as well as your brutes. So if you're always kind of undecided about what to do, I always suggest you go with the rule of cool. Whatever seems like the coolest to you and most fun for you to play with, then by all means, pick the one that actually is the best one for you. The only downside with these hanger-ons and brutes, however, is that if anyone goes with WYSIWYG in a campaign, it could be quite painful, just because WYSIWYG, which is an acronym for standing for what you see is what you get, some people are quite sticklers about that, so they might want you to use the official miniatures, which could be quite expensive for you if you're kind of in that situation. Most people are not WYSIWYG when it comes to Necromunda campaigns, but in case they are, it could be kind of problematic for you because the miniatures are quite expensive. However, if that is not an issue, if you're looking for save money, you could also 3D print, convert, kit bash, or proxy your own miniatures as well, because every miniature is a Necromunda miniature, and I will die on that hill with that. So that's good for this one. Also, if you guys have any suggestions, please drop a comment down in the comments box down below. If I like your suggestion for another hanger-on or brute you'd like to see, I'll make a video on it. So that's good for this week, guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. You guys' input is invaluable to us as always. I am Commander Cheapskate. I will catch you guys next video. Peace out and stay classy.